What's in a name change for a corporation? Why do companies take the decision to change their names? Let's take a look at some famous corporate rebranding efforts over the years. Yeah, you had Anderson Consulting over it becoming Accenture in 2001, Philip Morris becoming the Altria Group in 2001, Apple Computers to Apple Inc. in 2007, Google becoming Alphabet in 2015, Facebook most recently becoming Meta in October of 2021. Joining us to discuss further is Yinka Adewale, the co-founder and CEO of the latest firm to change its name, NOMBA, formerly Kudi. Yinka, you're very welcome. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And my first question I'm throwing to you, Yinka, why did you change the name? Because I have a theory. My theory is Kudi sounded too similar to Kuda Bank, and that's why you changed it. Am I correct? What happened?
I think names are very significant.
Yep.
If you just think about being an African, for example,
yeah.
Names are at the bedrock of who you are as a person, right? I think for us, it's about the future of our business and where our business is growing. So over the last 5 years, when we launched the brand in 2017 as Kudi, the name Kudi has actually always served us. Our customers know who we are and they love using our service. But as we see the future evolve, we're building other products that would appeal to other segments of customers. And we kind of wanted them to know what we stand for, which is actually helping businesses grow. And that's where the name comes from.
Fantastic. You mentioned building products that appeal to other customers in other segments. I've been dying to ask this of folks in the tech space, and you're doing payments and stuff, right? Onboarding folks. The informal sector, is that attractive to you? Are you trying to break in there? For example, Akara sellers. So, would you try to onboard them there, or are you just going to focus on the formal sector? What's your take on trying to get the informal sector on your platform?
It's a really interesting question. I think that there are a couple of pillars that make payments workable for the regular informal customer. One of it is like settlement, for example. Today, bank cards are settled to merchants T+1. For a small trader, they actually need their liquidity instantly. And the other one is also like cost of, infrastructures, like a POS terminal, for example. But however, the good part is one of the things that we're doing at NOMBA is building different payment instruments that allows businesses take from card payments to QR, for example, which the cost of deploying that solution is almost next to zero compared to the cost of deploying a POS terminal.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll take a look at some stats here. According to Sweden, I think 86% of SMEs are responsible for 86% of Nigeria's total workforce. So there's a big number there. Can all of these SMEs be digitized? How are you seeing that front?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do that, obviously. I think, like I said, access to merchants being able to get instant payments actually provides an opportunity for you to do that. So to answer your question, I think that over the next couple of years, we're going to see digitization of merchants across different verticals. And the reason is that the infrastructure to allow this happen is one of the things we've been building at NOMBA. So I do think that we're going to see payment go mainstream super fast.
I'm glad you mentioned POS terminals earlier. Yes. According to NIBS, I think the numbers are. I think you're also looking to expand your POS network,
yes,
right?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. So yeah, let's look at point of sale machines in Nigeria. According to the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, 976,898 as of June 2021, a jump from 523,000, but that's registered. Deployed is 638,000. So if you go back to the prior number we have with the number of SMEs for something million, you've only got 900 under a million registered point of sale and then deploy 630,000. How do you get the scale from there with numbers that low?
Yes, so I think that over the years, like you rightly said, the numbers have been growing. I think that there's a lot of investment coming into the space, and we're going to see a lot more growth. But I also think that if you think about the number of merchants that are viable for point-of-sale terminals, I think that there's about 20 million merchants that can accept digital payments in Nigeria when you just think about the retail space. So the real question is building technology tools that allow each of those merchants be able to accept, the basic means of payment. Think about bank transfers, for example. Today, it's a very common way of paying in Nigeria, and it offers you instant value on transactions. Everybody, once they have a phone, should be able to accept the basic form of payment, and that's one of the things that we're working on.
Okay, so I'm sorry to keep banging on POSs because that's, are you encouraged by, I think we also have transaction figures that came out. There was a big jump in transactions. Yeah, so 6.4 trillion 2021, 36% growth there. As far as volume, that jumped 50%. Is that encouraging?
Yes, super exciting. I think that a lot of the banks and the infrastructure players have been investing a lot more in reliability of payments over the last couple of years. So there's more consumer trust in the fact that, if I swipe my card or I insert my card in a POS terminal, the success rates of transactions have gone up. And then this means that it's a preferred option of payment versus paying in cash.
Great stuff. Okay, this is the question I actually wanted to ask. The name change was number 2, but this is the number 1. Your About page on your LinkedIn, right, talks about how you're passionate about innovation in the payment space. What does innovation in the payment space look like? You mentioned bank cards a few minutes ago. Does innovation in the payment space, for example, mean the elimination of bank cards? What does innovation look like?
I think there's going to be a mix of tokens, right, or cards, or QR, or mobile payments, NFC. I think what you see is enabling merchants accept, we sort of call it omni-channel payment experience, which means whether the customer comes with a card, whether it's a QR, whether it's an NFC, enabled device, they should be able to make payments. So I think that what we would see from an innovation standpoint is other segments of payments like NFC and QR and bank transfers would actually also start to grow aggressively as we've seen card payments grow in the last couple of years.
So it seems like this is about giving, when you talk about omni-channel and so on, it's about giving more options. Is that it? You want to be able, and that's part of your expansion, you want to be able to give merchants and customers more options to make these payments.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so what about downtime? I don't know why I struggle to get stats on downtime on POS again. I keep going back there. But across the network downtime and its impact as a hurdle to payments here in Nigeria, does that concern you, or how are you addressing that?
So the question on omni-channel actually answers this, this question of yours, because it's possible that your card issuer is down, for example, but at that same point, you can find out that when you log into your bank application, it actually works. So could you have made a bank transfer to the merchant and the merchant could confirm that payment instantly? Could you have logged into your bank application to pay with Visa or MasterCard? It's possible, right? I think that once we enable merchants to be able to take other payment options, even if a primary one isn't working, there will always be a fallback option for the customer.
Are there any challenges to that of merchants being allowed to use all different options? As for competition between those other channels, could that be a hurdle to that, to allowing merchants to be able to diversify?
I think there's a lot of collaboration that we're seeing in the space between multiple players, multiple banks, and multiple payment providers. And I think everybody has an ultimate goal. How do we digitize payments? Because cash is an expensive payment option. So I think that the real technology or those, we're solving a lot of that by making sure that our POS devices actually enable all these payment options for the merchants.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned collaboration. Another word that begins with C is competition, right?
Yes.
So recently, Central Bank of Nigeria gave a license to one of the telcos, payment service license. They finalized it. So the telcos are in this space. The fintechs are in this space. The banks are in this space. Is it more collaboration between all these players, or is it more competition, or a little bit of both?
I think the first thing is that the real competition is non-consumption. We still have a lot of payments being done in cash in Nigeria, right? And in most parts of the world. So if you think about the opportunity that exists from that standpoint, you would actually see that there's a lot of work to be done for all of the players that are in this space to actually double down and focus on delivering value and service to the customer. So
there's no competition? Okay, so the thing is, not to harp on, I'm not going to push you towards that answer, but it's healthy. I'll tell you this, and the way it's seen is that the consumer is the one that's winning, because I've got the telco that's giving me this option, I've got a NOMBA, I've got a bank. What about growth? As far as the growth, I'm going to get to cash in a second, but as far as growth in the sector, I guess between all these players, is that also something that you forecast to be healthy?
Yes, like growth, we're seeing a lot of growth on our side. We just recently crossed over $500 million in monthly transaction volumes, which is huge, right? So we think that there's a lot of growth potential from where we are today, and we're willing to double down this year on our expansion plan to be able to 3x those numbers.
That is 3x. That's healthy. What about hurdles? Okay, so what hurdles do you see ahead? I mean, it's a pre-election year. I don't know if that you even care about that stuff as a tech company, but you look at the economy. We're just talking about you, Jollof, of course. You're a Nigerian, yeah. So there's all types of hurdles everywhere, right? Yeah. What kind of hurdles do you see to growth?
I think at the core of payments for consumers and businesses, trust and reliability are very important, and obviously also the cost of the service. I think the biggest challenge you see in this space is companies being able to find the right talent from an engineering standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from a business standpoint, to be able to scale their businesses. I think those are like the most difficult problems that I have seen in scaling a technology payments company.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. School curriculums, do they have to be revamped to keep up with the kind of software developers you would be hiring to scale your business? What do you make of as far as education is concerned?
So I have a background in mechanical engineering. So I did
from a Nigerian university?
Yes.
All right. Yes. Well, there you go. Okay, good.
So, yeah. But then I spent a lot of my time in school actually writing software as well, which wasn't really part of my
what you learned
work. So I think that obviously a collaboration between private companies and universities will help. But I also think there's a lot of resources out there now for the barrier to being a software engineer, for example, is super low now. And we're seeing a lot of growth in that space where people are actually taking up the responsibility of learning by themselves.
Okay, I want to get back to the cash thing. You're talking about us still using cash. We're still a cash-based economy. I know I asked this already about whether we'll see cards being eliminated. What about cash? It seems, there's still that need to hold cash. Do you see that being phased out, I guess, over a period of time, or are we still just nowhere near?
Yeah, one way to think about it is obviously cash is a legal tender, right? So I think that cash always would exist. However, it's an expensive payment option when you even think about the cost of deposit to bank and the risk that comes with that. So I think that the real work we need to do, which we are doing, is digitizing merchants. The more businesses can accept digital payment options, the less people will rely on cash. And the more reliable the payment technologies are, the more the merchants actually trust that their earnings are safe, and then they will definitely drive up the use of digital payments.
What about infrastructure challenges? Internet penetration, laying of fiber cables, right-of-way charges in the different states. What about that? What about that as a hurdle to where you're trying to get to?
Yeah, so obviously the infrastructure has an impact on speed of processing transactions, for example. But one of the things we're also seeing from a, software development standpoint is applications are now getting a lot lighter. So that means you actually need less bandwidth and less, data resources to be able to make the average transaction. If you look at USSD payments, for example, that's been growing super fast over the last couple of years. So I think still back to the conversation on omni-channel payment experience, I think that's really where the answer is. There will probably not be a silver bullet that would work always, but as long as the consumer has optionality of making a payment via a card or a USSD payment or a QR or whatever, right? The transaction would be able to happen. And that's the most important thing. Access to trade, access to being able to receive your revenues, whether or not a service provider is down.
Okay, and good stuff. But that is still within the purview of the infrastructure that's there, right? Despite all these multiple channels, if you circle the wagons, that's still within the infrastructure limitations, or as far as how they will allow those payments to go. That's still a reality.
Yeah, we're in a regulated space, obviously. So the banks have an interesting, responsibility on their parts. And obviously, all payments would still happen within the regulatory sandbox as we see it. But I think that a lot of the banks, which are our partners, by the way, and a lot of the other infrastructure providers are heavily also investing in reliability. And I think this is getting a lot better, and we'll see a lot more reliability over the next couple of years.
All right. Yinka Adewale, co-founder, CEO of NOMBA. Thank you so much for joining us. Very interesting conversation with you.
Thank you so much for having me.